Texas was once sold as the ultimate safe haven for homeowners, a place where land was affordable, prices only moved one way, and building equity felt almost automatic. That promise has unraveled fast. Over just the past 6 months, the story has flipped, leaving tens of thousands of homeowners stuck, owing more than their properties are worth. Drive through many Texas neighborhoods today, and the warning signs are impossible to miss. For sale signs sit sun-bleached and forgotten, sinking into overgrown lawns as listings linger without a single offer. Builders, desperate to move inventory, are chopping prices so aggressively that it resembles a liquidation sale you'd expect at a failing retail chain, not a supposedly booming housing market. National media outlets are barely acknowledging what's unfolding across the Lone Star State, but the numbers at the local level tell a much darker story. This isn't a market gently slowing down, it's locking up entirely. In several suburban areas, available housing inventory has surged to levels not seen since the 2008 financial meltdown. Even more alarming, certain zip codes have already suffered double-digit price drops from their recent highs. When you layer those losses on top of exploding property taxes and insurance costs, which have nearly doubled in some counties, the result is a financial time bomb for homeowners and buyers alike. As we move deeper into this breakdown, I'll take you to a suburb just outside Austin, where builders are practically pleading with buyers. The incentives being offered sound unbelievable, and that's because they are. These deals exist only because demand has collapsed. Before you commit to a 30-year mortgage that could derail your financial future, you need to understand which areas are quietly turning into housing ghost towns. To uncover the truth, we analyzed recent foreclosure filings, massive price cut data from Redfin, and inventory reports from the Texas Real Estate Research Center to identify the most dangerous housing markets in the state right now. If you want to protect your money and stay ahead of this accelerating downturn, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments about where you believe the market is headed next. Fasten your seatbelt and check your mirrors, because we're heading straight into the storm. Number 10. Humble. Our road trip begins in the thick, humid stretch of the greater Houston metro area, specifically in Humble, a place that once functioned as a sleepy oil town before exploding into a confusing maze of rushed growth and overcrowded development. At first glance, driving through Humble, just north of the Beltway, the home prices may look tempting. But look a little closer, especially at the water lines creeping up fences and buildings, and the real risk becomes obvious. This area has a long history of flooding, and that vulnerability comes with a growing price tag. According to FEMA data, flood insurance costs here have jumped nearly 40% in just the past year, making ownership far more expensive than it appears on paper. What seems like a bargain quickly turns into a financial drain. While buyers may feel they're getting a deal up front, the ongoing carrying costs are crushing many homeowners. Redfin data shows that active housing inventory in Humble has ballooned by more than 35% compared to this time last year, a strong sign that residents are trying to exit before conditions worsen. Homes are also taking far longer to sell. The average listing now sits on the market for more than 50 days, nearly double the time it took just 2 years ago. Sellers are responding with aggressive price cuts, but even that isn't working. Almost 28% of current listings have lowered their asking prices in the past 30 days alone, often just to generate a single showing. Supply levels have quietly climbed beyond 4 months, officially pushing Humble into buyer market territory. Yet despite the shift, buyers remain noticeably absent. Adding to the concern, local foreclosure filings reveal a 12% jump in pre-foreclosure activity in this specific zip code compared to last quarter. Many of these homeowners bought near the top of the market, and now they're being hit from all sides. Property taxes across Harris County are being reassessed at inflated values, pushing monthly payments to levels that simply aren't sustainable. For the average family, the numbers no longer add up. It's painful to watch, but the reality is clear. Humble has become a textbook example of how low entry prices can hide long-term financial danger. And unless you have a deep financial cushion to absorb rising insurance and tax costs, this is one stop where it's smarter to keep driving. Number 9. Iowa Colony. As we head south from Houston, about 30 miles down Highway 288, we arrive at a town that was barely a dot on the map just 10 years ago. Iowa Colony is a textbook example of a boomtown that expanded far too quickly, and is now dealing with the painful aftermath as cheap money and easy demand disappear. Pull into one of the massive master-planned neighborhoods, and everything looks brand new and perfectly staged. The homes are spotless, the streets are wide, and yet something feels off. The quiet is unsettling. These developments were built on the assumption that remote work would last forever, allowing residents to live far from the city without consequences. That assumption is now collapsing. As return-to-office policies roll through corporate America, the reality of a long daily commute back into downtown Houston has made Iowa Colony far less appealing. Buyers simply aren't showing up. The data tells the same story. According to Realtor.com, the number of active listings in Iowa Colony has surged by more than 60% compared to this time last year. That kind of increase points to a massive oversupply of homes with very few willing buyers. Builders are trying everything to move inventory. Walk into a sales office today, and you're likely to be offered $20,000 in flex cash, interest rate buy-downs, and other incentives that would have been unthinkable just a year ago. Even with those concessions, homes are still sitting unsold. Prices are already slipping. The median home value has fallen by roughly 7% from its peak, erasing the equity of anyone who bought near the top of the market in late 2022. But the warning signs don't stop there. Industry insiders report that cancellation rates on new construction contracts in this area are approaching 25%. In other words, 1 out of every 4 buyers is walking away, forfeiting their deposit after realizing the home is worth less before construction is even completed. The rental side of the market isn't offering relief either. Census data shows vacancy rates climbing toward 10%, leaving investors with empty units and mounting monthly losses. What was once pitched as the next big growth hub now feels increasingly isolated, far from major job centers, and flooded with excess supply. From my perspective, buying in Iowa Colony right now is like trying to grab a falling knife. There's no land scarcity, developers keep building, and without a demand rebound, the market risks collapsing under the sheer weight of its own overproduction. Number 8. Denton. We're leaving the sticky Gulf Coast air behind and traveling north to the outer edge of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. Denton is known as a lively college town with its own personality, but its housing market is struggling to balance sky-high prices with a population that largely can't afford them. Driving near the University of North Texas, the tension becomes obvious. For lease signs are everywhere, often competing directly with for sale signs on the same streets. The rental market is flooded, and that excess supply is pushing values lower across the board, forcing homeowners into a downward pricing battle they're not winning. Local data confirms the shift. According to the North Texas Real Estate Information Systems, Denton's median home price has fallen 4% compared to last year. While that number may sound modest, it represents the first meaningful price decline the city has seen in more than a decade. At the same time, single-family home inventory has surged by 42%, overwhelming buyers with choices they're largely ignoring. Sales activity has slowed dramatically. The number of closed transactions is down 18% year over year, a clear sign that demand has dropped sharply. Many sellers are still holding firm on price, but the market is forcing adjustments. Nearly 31% of active listings have already cut their asking price. Investors aren't escaping the pain either. Those who purchased student-focused housing expecting steady, hands-off income are now dealing with vacancy rates approaching 8% in off-campus properties. Adding to the strain, Denton County carries some of the highest property tax rates in the region, tacking hundreds of extra dollars onto monthly payments that students and young families simply can't absorb. There are also early warning signs on the financial side. Data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas shows an uptick in credit delinquencies in this zip code, with mortgage stress rising among recent buyers. That's a troubling indicator of what may be coming next. Denton has priced itself beyond what its local workforce can realistically support. In my view, the city is heading toward a hard reality check. Wages here don't justify today's inflated home values, and the correction ahead is likely to be slow, painful, and difficult to reverse. Number 7. Forney. Moving east of downtown Dallas, we quickly find ourselves crawling along Highway 80 in near-standstill traffic as we enter Forney. This suburb surged in popularity after marketing itself as a place where affordable homes met wide-open space and upscale living. But sitting in endless gridlock makes one thing painfully clear. The infrastructure never stood a chance against the rapid population growth. Many families moved here hoping for a better lifestyle, only to discover they now spend hours each day trapped in their cars. That daily frustration is taking a real toll on the housing market. Residents are increasingly fed up, and the exit is becoming obvious, as a flood of homes hits the market all at once from people trying to escape the congestion. Pricing data reflects the panic. Zillow reports that roughly 33% of listings in Forney have undergone price reductions, one of the highest rates in the region. In practical terms, that means about 1 in 3 sellers has been forced to admit their home was overpriced and is now racing to attract any buyer willing to look. Builders are under even more pressure. The number of newly built homes that are finished but still unsold has jumped 55% compared to last year. Carrying those properties has become a financial nightmare, especially with today's high interest rates on construction loans. Home values are already sliding. Median prices have dropped close to 9% from their peak, pushing many recent buyers into negative equity before they've even fully settled into their homes. Meanwhile, school enrollment is skyrocketing, a statistic that sounds encouraging until you see the consequences. Severe overcrowding has weakened the appeal of local school districts, dragging down neighborhood desirability and home values along with it. Market activity has slowed dramatically. The average time it takes to sell a home in Forney has nearly tripled in just 1 year, climbing from about 20 days to nearly 60. Financial stress is also rising beneath the surface. According to Atom Data Solutions, foreclosure starts in Kaufman County are up 15%, signaling that pressure on homeowners is intensifying. Rental investors aren't immune either. Vacancy rates for single-family rentals have climbed to around 8%, as fewer tenants are willing to tolerate the commute and traffic headaches. In my view, Forney has become a textbook warning of what happens when buyers ignore infrastructure realities. The market is now correcting that mistake, and everyone involved is paying the price. Number 6. Manor. Our next stop takes us into Central Texas, just east of Austin, to a town that was heavily promoted as the next breakout tech hotspot thanks to its proximity to the Tesla Gigafactory. Manor was pitched to investors and families alike as a sure thing, a place where growth was all but guaranteed. But drive through these dusty, newly built neighborhoods today, and the reality feels very different. The surge of tech workers that was supposed to flood into the area never arrived in the numbers developers projected. As a result, many landlords are now stuck with vacant homes and shrinking returns. Street after street is lined with identical houses, each marked by "For Rent" signs. With so many similar properties competing for the same small pool of tenants, pricing power has vanished. What was once framed as opportunity has turned into a commodity trap. The numbers tell the story clearly. Data from the Austin Board of Realtors shows that active listings in Manor have more than doubled over the past 18 months, an astonishing spike by any standard. Inventory is now pushing toward 5 months of supply, shifting leverage firmly toward the few buyers still willing to step in. Prices are already reflecting the imbalance. Median home values in Manor have dropped roughly 12% compared to last year, ranking among the steepest declines in the country. Builders, feeling the pressure, have moved into full panic mode. Incentives as high as $30,000 are being offered just to close deals, undermining resale values for nearby homeowners who can't compete with subsidized pricing. The rental market isn't providing relief either. According to Zumper, asking rents in Manor are down about 10%, pushing many investors into negative cash flow month after month. At the same time, institutional investors are rapidly unloading their holdings in this zip code, often dumping 10 to 20 homes at once, further dragging prices lower. New construction contracts are also unraveling. Cancellation rates have climbed to around 24%, showing that buyers are willingly forfeiting deposits to avoid closing on properties that are losing value before they're even completed. For resale homes, the average time on market has stretched to roughly 75 days, leaving sellers stuck with little leverage. In my view, Manor stands out as one of the most dangerous housing markets right now. It was built on speculation rather than real organic demand, and with no clear price floor in sight, the downside risk remains significant. Number 5. Celina. Turning back north to the outermost reaches of the Dallas metro area, we arrive in Celina, a town with massive aspirations and equally massive price tags. This place wants to be the next luxury hotspot, but the numbers here have drifted far beyond what reality can support. As you drive past open farmland being rapidly transformed into upscale subdivisions, one question becomes unavoidable. Who exactly is buying $700,000 homes when mortgage rates are hovering near 7%? The gap between local wages and housing costs in Celina may be one of the widest in Texas, and the strain is becoming impossible to hide as demand dries up. Redfin data shows that price per square foot has already fallen close to 6%, a clear sign that buyers are pushing back against paying premium prices for homes located an hour away from downtown Dallas. At the same time, new home inventory has jumped 48% year over year, setting off a brutal competition among builders who are now undercutting each other just to stay afloat. To move inventory, builders are resorting to aggressive tactics. Interest rate buy-downs into the low 5% range are becoming common, costing developers tens of thousands of dollars per sale simply to keep deals from falling apart. Census Bureau permit data also reveals a slowdown in future construction starts, an early indication that even developers recognize the momentum has stalled. Homes aren't moving the way they used to. The absorption rate, which tracks how quickly properties are selling, has dropped by roughly 30% compared to last year, signaling a market that's grinding to a halt. Meanwhile, buyers are being blindsided at closing by shockingly high property taxes. In many of these new utility districts, effective tax rates are approaching 3%, adding thousands of dollars a year to ownership costs. Financial stress is starting to surface as well. Pre-foreclosure notices in Celina have increased by 11% just in the past quarter. Inventory at the higher end is especially concerning. The number of homes priced above $600,000 has doubled, and many of them are sitting idle with no serious offers. Celina may look pristine and polished on the surface, but financially it's becoming a trap. In my view, this area represents the very peak of housing market excess, and only now are we beginning to watch the air slowly leak out as reality catches up. Number 4. Leander. We circle back to the edges of the Austin metro area and stop in Leander, a suburb that not long ago held the title of the fastest-growing city in America. But standing near the commuter rail station that was supposed to redefine the city's future, it becomes clear that rapid growth has come with serious consequences. Leander is now dealing with major water infrastructure challenges, including restrictions and growing uncertainty around whether future development can even be supported. Few things undermine a housing market faster than questions about basic utilities. When buyers start wondering if a city can sustain its population or even keep lawns green, confidence disappears quickly. And that uncertainty is pushing buyers away in large numbers. The data reflects the shift. Median home prices have dropped nearly 11% from their overheated 2022 highs. According to the Austin Board of Realtors, active listings in Leander have more than doubled, leaving sellers with limited leverage and mounting pressure. Homes are also taking much longer to sell. The average resale listing now sits on the market for more than 70 days, largely because buyers are being pulled toward heavily discounted new construction. Builders, eager to unload inventory, are offering brand new homes at prices that undercut existing properties. New construction has become a bottleneck. Detailed market reports show hundreds of completed spec homes sitting vacant, clogging the supply pipeline. At the same time, the number of failed listings, properties withdrawn after failing to sell, has risen 20% year over year, signaling growing seller frustration. The rental side of the market is weakening as well. A wave of new apartment developments has diluted demand, cutting into returns for single-family rental investors. Buyer confidence is clearly eroding, with new home contract cancellations jumping to 28%, a strong indicator of widespread buyer regret. Price cuts are no longer the exception. They're becoming standard practice. Roughly 40% of active listings have already reduced their asking prices. Even more troubling is the rise in delinquent HOA payments, a quiet but telling sign that many homeowners are struggling to keep up financially. Leander shows how explosive growth can turn into long-term strain when infrastructure can't keep pace. In my view, the combination of water uncertainty and extreme oversupply places this market firmly in the danger zone for at least the next 2 years. Number 3. Little Elm. Back in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, we make our way to the narrow peninsula known as Little Elm. On paper, this place looks like a dream, lakeside living, scenic views, and master-planned neighborhoods. But the day-to-day reality tells a very different story. Living here often means being funneled onto a single main road, where traffic regularly grinds to a halt. Sit in that gridlock long enough trying to leave your neighborhood, and it quickly becomes clear why so many homeowners are rushing to list their properties. The lifestyle buyers were promised has been overtaken by congestion, and the housing market is now responding accordingly. According to Realtor.com, active listings in Little Elm have surged by 50% compared to this time last year. With so many homes competing for attention, sellers are folding fast. In just the past month alone, 35% of listings have already cut their asking prices in an attempt to stay relevant. Prices are sliding, but that's only part of the problem. Median sale prices are down about 5%, while overall transaction volume has collapsed by 22%. Buyers have largely stepped away, creating a serious liquidity issue for anyone who needs to sell quickly. When demand disappears, even modest price drops can turn into major losses. Ownership costs are adding fuel to the fire. HOA fees in these master-planned communities are climbing rapidly due to inflation, making monthly expenses harder to justify and homes tougher to move. At the same time, loan-to-value ratios for recent buyers are deteriorating, pushing many into underwater territory as prices soften. Distress is also beginning to show in county-level data. Foreclosure filings across Denton County are rising, and Little Elm is contributing a noticeable share of those cases. Compounding the issue, the inventory of homes priced below $400,000 has virtually disappeared, forcing buyers into higher price ranges they simply can't afford. Investor demand has also dried up. Activity from investors is down roughly 40%, removing a critical support layer that once helped stabilize the market. On top of that, insurance costs for properties near the lake have jumped by around 30%, pushing marginal buyers completely out of the picture. Little Elm may offer beautiful views, but the financial reality underneath is far less attractive. In my opinion, this market has turned into a classic liquidity trap, easy to buy into during the boom, but extremely difficult to exit without taking a painful hit at the closing table. Number 2. Kyle. Just south of Austin, along the Interstate 35 corridor sits Kyle, often grouped with Manor and Buda, but dealing with an even more severe oversupply problem. Driving through the area, it feels less like a finished city and more like an endless construction zone. Earth is constantly being moved, new developments stretch in every direction, and the scale of building alone explains why the market here is buckling. Kyle has become the epicenter of builder price wars. Developers are slashing prices aggressively, and existing homeowners are caught in the crossfire, watching their equity disappear almost overnight. The damage is showing up clearly in the data. Housing inventory in Kyle has surged by roughly 115% compared to levels from 2 years ago. At the same time, median home values have dropped about 14%, erasing a staggering amount of homeowner wealth in an extremely short time frame. Major builders are openly undercutting their own past sales. Companies like D.R. Horton and Leander are now selling homes for as much as $50,000 less than identical floor plans sold for back in 2022. According to Redfin, nearly 40% of transactions in Kyle now include seller concessions, with owners covering closing costs or repairs just to keep deals from falling apart. The rental market isn't holding up either. Vacancy rates have jumped to around 12% as thousands of new apartment units hit the market at the same time, overwhelming demand. Sellers are struggling to adjust. Expired listings have tripled in the past 6 months, as many homeowners refuse to accept how far prices have fallen. Institutional investors, once a major source of demand, have completely pulled back. In fact, many large funds are now net sellers in this market. Supply conditions are deteriorating further, with months of inventory pushing beyond 6 months, a level typically associated with recessionary housing conditions. Adding to the concern, mortgage delinquency rates in this zip code are climbing faster than the county average. For anyone who needs to sell, Kyle has become brutal terrain. In my view, this city is the canary in the coal mine for the broader U.S. housing market. If you want a real-world example of what a total collapse in pricing power looks like, Kyle's recent sales history tells the story better than any headline. Number 1. Hutto. We've reached the top of the list, the most troubled real estate market in Texas, and arguably one of the worst in the entire country. That place is Hutto. Once known for its quirky hippo statues, this town just north of Austin became ground zero for speculation tied to the hype surrounding the Samsung semiconductor plant. Investors and buyers rushed in, convinced this area was a guaranteed win. Prices skyrocketed to unsustainable levels almost overnight, but now the illusion is gone, and the correction has been brutal. Driving through Hutto today feels like watching a market unravel in real time. Optimism has vanished, replaced by urgency and outright panic. The numbers are staggering. Median home prices in Hutto have fallen more than 16% year over year, and in certain neighborhoods, values are already down roughly 20% from their peak. Active listings have surged by 120%, unleashing a wave of supply that sellers simply can't compete against. Resale homes are barely moving. Builders are dumping inventory at fire sale pricing, completely destroying demand for existing properties. Our analysis shows that half of all listings in Hutto have already reduced their asking prices, the highest percentage we've seen anywhere on this road trip. Institutional investors who once piled into this market are now heading for the exits, often selling at a loss and further flooding the market with inventory. Liquidity has all but disappeared, with days on market pushing toward 80 days, a clear signal that transactions have nearly frozen. Financial distress is rising fast. Mortgage delinquencies in this area are increasing more sharply than anywhere else in the Austin metro. Developers are pulling back aggressively as well, with new building permits down 40%, a sign that even builders recognize demand has evaporated. The rental market isn't offering relief. Landlords are now advertising extreme concessions, including 2 months of free rent just to fill empty units. Foreclosures are climbing too, up 18% year over year, pointing to deeper trouble ahead. At the closing table, sellers are taking heavy losses, with the gap between list price and final sale price widening to about 5%. Hutto stands as the clearest example of the failure of the buy anywhere mentality. In my view, this represents a full-scale collapse of the local housing economy, and recovery is unlikely to be quick. It could take 5 to 10 years for prices to stabilize and rebuild. After traveling across the state and seeing the damage firsthand, one thing is undeniable. From flood-prone areas around Houston to the overbuilt outskirts of Austin and Dallas, the pattern is the same. Inventory is stacking up, prices are falling fast, and the promise of effortless equity has vanished in these 10 suburbs. If you want to avoid becoming the next cautionary tale, you have to think beyond the marketing pitch and focus on fundamentals. And if you found this deep dive helpful, please like the video, share it with anyone considering a move to Texas, subscribe for more honest market analysis, and leave a comment below if you live in, or have experience with, any of these areas. Thanks for riding along, and I'll see you in the next one.